Hello my friends, today I have another PB of mine with Blindfolded Breath of the Wild, Great Plateau this time around. I have been practicing any percent and Great Plateau for Breath of the Wild again because I got accepted into ESA with this run and yeah, I am practicing quite a lot for it. One disclaimer before the run starts now. I actually decided to try something new and cut out all the downtime of the run. As you can see, I cutted out all the cutscenes that are like just waiting around here in the beginning, and I cutted out all the text mashing parts just to make it a bit more of a nice viewing experience, because these days I got really fed up while grinding runs that I keep listening to these same cutscenes, and there is a lot of cutscenes actually in this run, so I just took the liberty and took them out. If you want to watch the full run, it will be on my second channel as always. But yeah, we start here in the very beginning at the Shrine of Resurrection. We first have to pick up our axe to get, basically to enable some blindfolded techniques that we use, mostly swing buffering and fall damage cancelling. So this early weapon here is not really used for combat, but rather for techniques, and it's very, very important. It's very lucky that it's here right in the beginning. Then the first major goal that we gonna do is we have to reach the tower and activate the pedestal there to get the basically tower cutscene. And we do this with a big run. As you can see here, I'm just running through the fields like crazy. This is also done by multiple blindfolded techniques already. The first one is called camera locking, because as you can see, the camera is not moving like dynamically behind Link like it usually does in a playthrough. And how this works is actually if you tap your camera a tiny bit up or down, then the camera locks in place until you either like climb or like target something. So you can actually basically make the dynamic camera in this game to a static camera, which is pretty nice for blindfolded, as you can just hold like cardinal directions and move like in a basically fixed map. Then what you can see me do here as well is whistle sprinting. I basically have infinite stamina, if you have noticed, and I'm basically alternating between normal running and this whistle sprinting, which is very easy to do. Everyone could do it as a casual player. Here in the beginning, I have to hit somehow this pedestal. I miss it right here, but it's very easy to back up. You are very likely to be too far to the right there. And instantly now we go to the fall damage cancel and hit it perfectly. So this trick is also very, very difficult. It basically, you have like a few frames, I think it's like 7 to 9 frames or something, in which you have to, during the fall, throw your weapon, and then in the first few frames of throwing the weapon, you have to de-equip it. That negates all the fall damage that you get, and it's pretty nice. It's pretty doable blindfolded, thankfully. It's not too difficult. But let me talk a bit more about the whistle sprinting. As you can see here, I'm also again running in a straight line. I set up my angle and then just run. This is a common theme you will see here in this run. But yeah, whistle sprinting basically allows you to have infinite stamina, but it's not the full speed of the run. You run at like 80% run speed. That's why I try to alternate between normal running to get the stamina down and then whistle sprinting to get the stamina back up again, just to save like a tiny bit more time. It's really not much throughout the run, but every little bit helps. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is go to the Bomb Shrine, which is located right here in front of me. And there are 4 shrines in the category of Great Plateau, which I haven't talked about yet, but the goal of this category is basically to finish the tutorial section of the game, which includes the first 4 shrines, acquire all the new runes of the game, and then talk to the old man to obtain your glider, so you can leave the tutorial section, which is the Great Plateau. And yeah, Bomb Shrine in general is very normalized, as you can see here. There's many hops and bomb throws that we not even count at this. I used to count them with like a pseudo beat count, but I recently just learned from Saver that you can just listen to when the bomb hits the wall and then explode it. It's like so much easier. Sometimes we really overcomplicate things in these kind of runs when it's very obvious that you can make it easier. But yeah, shrines are in general very cool. I really like them for Blindfolded. I said this before, but I highly recommend, if you want to try anything Blindfolded in Breath of the Wild, then probably doing like single shrines is the best way to start, because they are very normalized. There are many ladders, there are enclosed spaces with many walls, and they are just generally very fun and repeatable. You can just save and reload and you start again in the beginning of the shrine, which is very nice. So here we have to get rid of these blocks first. This shrine introduced the bomb mechanic, as you could see. Like, we can spawn bombs wherever we want and explode them on another button press. So with the use of this mechanic, we just rush through this whole thing and then make our way to the second shrine, which will be Stasis. Stasis is the ability to stop time or stop objects in time, but until we get there, we still have a quite difficult section coming up. Probably one of the harder sections of this run, because we will meet the Tree of Doom. But more to that in just a second. First of all, we need to run all the way to the old man's hut, because there we find a very important cooking ingredient, which is the hot pepper, or like the spicy pepper, or however it's called. I'm not really sure. So we notch ourselves here into this tiny corner with a very specific setup, then do like 13 jumps to the right, and then you can see in the background already the hut and also the shrine on top of this mountain. Yes, we need to climb up there in just a second, but we have more of our favorite whistle sprinting and running alternation. I really would, if you are a beginner of this category, or like if you are even just a casual player, I recommend just whistle sprinting all the way. It really does not save that much time, and it's easier to mess up, I guess. But yeah, we need speed. This is a speed run, of course. So here we arrive at the hut finally. Here's a tiny new setup that I learned recently, where you notch yourself here into this tiny rock on the side, so to make your position more normalized, and then you can basically, without normalization, jump down here and just hold down mashing A to obtain this spicy pepper. So we cut out like a pretty big normalization part here. We used to go first into this corner here of the house, but we don't do that anymore. Shoutouts to Saver again. There are many tiny new strats that I implemented now in this kind of run that Saver found, so big shoutouts for sure. After we normalize here in the corner, there's some pretty jank collisions, so I need to be very careful where exactly I am. We have to cook. We're gonna sit down here at the fire, cook one spicy pepper for cold resistant food that we will need to cross the icy mountains in just a second. And we cook a stamella shroom, which is not required for Great Plateau, but as you can see on my splits, I was basically just doing an any percent run and I got a PB in the Great Plateau. That's why I'm doing some stuff that is not really required for Great Plateau, but later on for any percent. But yeah, the run died later on, so I just kept the Great Plateau part because it was pretty neat. Now, in front of us, you can already see the dreaded Tree of Doom. Thankfully, we have some new setup. I actually came up with a new setup for the tree just a couple of days ago, and I tried it here the first time live in this run. It's a combination of Saver's tree strat and my old strat, and I just took the best of both parts and made a completely new strat of this. So we don't use the axe anymore to cut the tree, but the bomb. This is what Saver used to do. And now I implemented my old backup strat, where we go like to the left of the tree and then do a backflip on top of the tree. This, for me, just gave the maximum amount of consistency so far to get over here, over this pit. And this was the first attempt I did this in a run, and it worked flawlessly, so I'm very happy about the result. And I also fixed the setup here to actually get to the climbing position. I do like a few more jumps here to set myself up perfectly beneath the rock that we need to climb here. So in general, the strats didn't really change much, I would say, since my last PB, which was a 37-minute yeah, my last speed was 3750, I think. So not all the strats changed drastically, but like tiny new implementations and optimizations are in there, which really help with both speed and consistency. This climb here stayed exactly the same though. It's a very specific climb setup. We always notch ourselves into these corners of these rocks and then climb the mountain with like 2 climbs up, 3 climbs up, 1 upright, and just like that we scale the entire wall until we reach the stasis shrine, which is located right on top of this cliff. This here is the last one. We now do one more swing buffer. Oh yeah, I haven't talked about swing buffers. You can see me using the axe here to basically what's happening is you can, it's similar to Super Mario 64 Z buffering or pause buffering. During the axe animation, you can hold a direction on the analog stick and Link will turn exactly in that direction. So you can for example like swing buffer here to the right and then like you get a perfect 90-degree angle. Now stasis shrine. You can see the stasis ability here to the left. We stop this cog wheel to make this bridge happen. And the beginning of stasis is extremely timing based. You need to do always the same inputs at the same time to get the same cycle. Otherwise you don't know where the bridge is located. Here we wait for this ball to roll. Do 2 scope cancels, also a technique that we use to stasis this ball, and then we continue with some more bunny hops and setups. The scope cancelling is a very cool technique in my opinion because it allows you to, in a normalized way, gain vertical height with the camera. So, for example, to stasis this boulder that was rolling there, we had to like look a tiny bit up, but we cannot in Blindfolded just tap up the camera stick, of course, because yeah, it's not normalized at all. So what we can do is pull out the scope and cancel the scope animation and pull out the scope again, and that gives us always a tiny bit of distance vertically, which is super cool. And we use that in any percent mostly for setups and for Dark Beast Ganon, because we don't use Epona for the end fight, but rather scope cancel into very precise positions and then shoot arrows in there. But we are upcoming to the considerably hardest part of the Great Plateau run. Yeah, it is definitely the hardest part. It is crossing the icy mountains here to Cryonis. Here is a tiny bit of a new strat. I used to... Oh yeah, it's actually pretty new. If you remember my old runs, both any percent and Great Plateau, I used to pseudo beat count the SM64 slider music here for like extremely long, like 300 beats or something. In my head, I just sang like the and I counted these beats for this entire section here. But now we first do like some jumps, and then we actually started counting footsteps instead of pseudo beat counting, because yeah, again, overcomplicating things, as I said earlier. I just looked that up what Saven did basically, and yeah, it is just much more easier to count Link's footsteps, of course, because it's also a constant rhythm. You can count here the snow steps like the dun 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 dun, and you just count those instead of counting like the incredible high amount of beats in your head and really destroying your brain with it. So we just count here like, I don't know, 50 steps, 60 steps total around, and then go like up left, and then we count like 45 steps, and then we press up and do the shield slide, and that should always align you perfectly with the next wall where we need to go. You can see the shield slide coming here now. This is an incredibly inconsistent part, unfortunately. It can go so far to the right if you are unlucky. It can go super far to the left. So after the shield slide, we usually just save and hope for the best that we are like kind of aligned. Usually the good thing to do is do like 1 or 2 hops to the left, because usually you are too far to the right, and that was exactly the right decision in this case too. You want to grab exactly this wall, normalize on this tiny pillar here to the right, like I do right now. And then you don't necessarily need to climb up here to get the chest with the bomb arrows. But again, this was an any percent run, so I need that for any percent. For Great Plateau, you could theoretically skip this part now and save like another 10 seconds, but
This might be in Great Plateau, dude.
Great Plateau is not really a category. If you know how to run any percent, you will most likely not really grind Great Plateau anymore, because you just do it in every run anyways. So I think Great Plateau is a great category to start, but if you commit to full any percent, you will probably not run it like as your main speedrun anymore. That's why I'm doing all these tiny extra things for any percent as well. And they don't lose that much time. They lose like a total of 20 seconds maybe. But yeah, beautiful Cryonis without mistake, without death or anything.
So good.
Golded the split, really nice. Now, Cryonis has also some kind of RNG going on. Cryonis, first of all, is the ability to create ice from water surfaces. As you can see here, we created this ice block. And we can use this to solve like some puzzles, like here's the door above the water, how can we open the door? Well, we can put an ice block beneath it. And here comes the RNG part. Right in front of us here is a guardian enemy. And this guy can spot you either early or late, he can go in front of you, behind you. And he can mess you up very, very easily. You want to get stuck here at this place and do like a setup. One shield punch. Shield punches give you a tiny bit of distance, and then do a Cryonis block here to get up, basically without interacting at all with the Guardian. And that was perfectly executed here. We got pretty lucky. And basically have the shrine done without ever fighting this guy or whatever. It can really happen that you need to just kill him with your axe or something, and then set up from there again, but it's a big reset point, or like not really reset point because you can just retry it, but you often, very often, you will lose time here. Now we use the first time the quick travel feature, where you can warp yourself to already visited locations, and we go back to the tower and do one more fall damage cancel. This time our goal is the Magnesis Shrine, which is already the last. Without the cutscenes, this run goes very fast. I like it. I think it's a great addition. Tell me what you think in the comments, because I probably will make more runs, more commentated runs like this in the future, where I just cut out all the major downtime. I think it's just much, much more engaging to watch. So, interesting setup here. We climbed this wall, align ourselves here with the edge. If you hold, fun fact, if you hold the target button, you cannot run out of or run off of ledges in most cases. Not in all cases, that's very important to say, but in most cases Link will stop at the edge and not fall down, which is very useful for Blindfolded. But yeah, we basically use Cryonis here to cross this lake, because otherwise we would run out of stamina, and Cryonis creates this super convenient platform in the middle of it to lets you refill your stamina quickly. And then we climbed this wall, which very fortunately aligns us perfectly with the shrine right in front of us. So we can normalize here in the corner, do 2 jumps, and literally just hold straight up, and we will reach the pedestal to activate the shrine. This is a very, very cool setup. I like it. It's so simple. Sometimes it really feels great when you find these super simple setups that are still really fast. Now, Magnesis Shrine, the last of the 4, as I said, is the ability to, oh god, how to describe it? You basically have a ginormous magnet in your hand, and you can like manipulate metal objects into like going however you want them to go. You can see this here with this door. You can like push it away and open spaces and stuff. Magnesis is not really a rune we use often. I think we only ever use it in this shrine, to be fair, and in any percent we use it to get some metal chests out of the ground. Because here you also are supposed to use Magnesis, but you can also use stasis and then punch stuff to give them like a stop time momentum, and then release stasis. because it's just much more consistent with the camera in Blindfolded. As if you magnesis stuff, your camera will most likely follow the object, and that's not what you want to see.
I ran out of stamina.
So here we just run down. We used to do like a shield jump here, but in any percent, we are later on going to do some wind bombs. And if you do the shield jump here, it can mess up your character's ragdoll physics, it's called. Basically when you get like hit and Link is flying around like crazy. And that can mess up your wind bombs later. So to avoid that, we just run into the water and use Cryonis again. It's cool because this shrine uses 3 different runes. It's a very like interactive shrine. And that's all of the shrines already. We do one more quick warp here to Bomb Shrine. And from the Bomb Shrine, we're gonna run straight to the castle. Now, because of the new route, it's nighttime at this point, so enemies are spawning. That's why we need to throw here a bomb before we can do all the climbing. It's also kind of RNG dependent, or like random whether enemies follow you here on this path or not. So it's kind of scary sometimes. But in most cases, you are like free to go. You can see right in front of me in the distance, there's this big church. That is our destination. There's where the run ends already. Wow, it's been fast. Without the cutscenes, it's going smoothly. So yeah, we're just gonna do one last alternation of sprinting and whistle sprinting to gain the maximum amount of speed with running. And then we need to climb up the church and go to the old man, talk to him and get our glider. And that would be it for this speedrun. I'm already gonna say like, thank you for watching and stuff. I really appreciate it. I have been grinding Breath of the Wild as well as Ocarina of Time now, because I will run both of these live in Sweden in ESA in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks to be precise. So it's been a blast to go back to these games. I have lots of plans with SM64 also these days. But yeah, we'll see how it all turns out. Here the last few bunny hops on top of this roof. I also used to do a beat count here, but it turned out to be less consistent. Set up the angle and you can see him waiting there. We just run and then timer is at 33:04. There will be a few more cutscenes that we need to press away. The timing officially ends when there is this tiny confirmation triangle from the text box after you get the glider.
If it's any way faster than
so right after this text that's coming up right now, bien compromis, blah 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 blah, and time 33:28. You love to see it. Big PB. This was a PB by like 4 minutes for me, so kind of massive in such an optimized category. Thank you very, very much for watching one more time. I hope you enjoyed it. Check out my other videos and goodbye. Hey, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this new format with cutting out the long cutscenes and stuff. I really think it might be worth to do in the future, just to like save you some precious time in which anyways the game just plays around. I personally like it. Tell me what you think about it, really. As always, big shoutouts to my Patreons for sponsoring this video today. Bob, Farrell, Boris, Benlitz and ZXMany especially. Thank you very, very much and see you around. Bye bye.